Hello, in this video I would like to go over some ways of finding peer-reviewed journal articles. And just to begin, peer review means that any research that is done, this has been put into a manuscript and written up and then sent out to some journal. A lot of different journals available for looking at sciences and chemistry, and there are typically then going to be editors of those journals where they will receive those articles that are submitted, and then they find experts in that area and in that field to send the journal articles that have been written by investigators. They'll send them out and ask those experts to review the articles. So they'll review the articles and then they will go through and they'll look at the methodology, they'll look at the data, the results, the interpretations, and they'll provide suggestions for maybe this is something else you could do, for example, adding different experiments or suggesting maybe alternative views in terms of how the results were interpreted. And they might, so then that goes back to the editor, and the editor then decides, okay, we're going to publish this, or we're going to ask for additional work done or additional experiments before we believe your results, for example. Or we feel like this could be more valuable if this experiment were added. It's pretty common. So this is what we're looking at for peer-reviewed articles. So this is what we're going to be looking at 10 or 20 peer-reviewed articles during the semester, and you're going to kind of write almost a review of what is in the literature, and then also make a suggestion on what type of experiments you could do or what is kind of lacking in terms of what has been done in the past. And so understanding the literature, that's kind of the first part. And being able to find it, that's also a big component of this. So where do we find peer-reviewed articles? One of the places that I would suggest starting at is in our Lakeland library. So if you go to my.lakeland.edu, you'll be brought to this landing page. And on the left side, when you start on this page, you should be able to find the John Esch Library link. So that is where I would start here. Now, currently the chat is offline. That just means that there's no librarian available at the moment. You should be able to, during opening hours, you should be able to click on that, and there'll be someone that can help you. They've done a good job of trying to create a few more later in the evening open hours so that people, when they're studying or doing these things after work, have access to a librarian if you have any questions. So if you scroll down on here, you'll find the typical Monarch Library catalog, which is books and DVDs, for example. We're going to look over here for articles, databases, and articles. And what happens here is we're going to go to the EBSCOhost database, and this is going to give you a lot of scientific articles. They're going to help you find a ton of information, a ton of stuff for what you're looking for. Lakeland University, so we're going to click that in there. Oh, that's all the way at the bottom. So then that should set our location. So what I'm going to do once we get into EBSCOhost, I select all. Now, I've been told in the past it takes longer to search through those, but it takes me longer to click all the boxes I want to click, and it really doesn't take that long to search through all of the options. So I'm going to select all of the different databases where things are going to come from. And this brings me up to a search bar. So you can this is a relatively simple one. You can put any search term in there that you'd like. And there's some things you can add and to change what field you're looking at. So for example, let's say I want to do perovskite. So I'm interested in that compound, and I want it to be in solar cells, or I'll just say solar power, or it's just solar. How about that? So I can add that. Maybe I want this to be in the title, or maybe that can be anywhere. It doesn't really matter. I would recommend maybe when you're starting, just have, you don't have to select a field there. So we'll search and see what we get. Okay, perovskite, solar cells, properties, applications, and efficiency. Maybe this is a good place to start. But remember, we're looking for peer-reviewed, so some of these things might just be articles someone writes, and they're not necessarily peer-reviewed. Now that's an okay place to start if you're just kind of gathering background information. But when we start writing our review articles and we start to need information from research to put in, some of those things you will likely need peer reviewed. So this is where on the left side there you can refine the search, and this is why I like EBSCOhost, because these are available kind of things you can just like toggle on and off. So I want to do peer review. So we'll click on peer review, and that's going to take off any of these articles that are not peer reviewed. Well, that one just left. That means it wasn't a peer reviewed article. And that doesn't mean it's not a valuable article. It just means it wasn't peer reviewed. So this might be a really great article to look at for general background information about perovskite solar cells. But if I'm looking for research and I'm looking for peer reviewed research, this is going to just select those specific versions. So here I'm looking at this perovskite article, and you'll notice that there's a full text version of this. That means if I click on this link, it's going to take me to a full text PDF version that I can save and keep on my computer or wherever. I would recommend if you do save this, a lot of times the retrieve thing isn't super helpful. So what you might want to do is change it from retrieve to something more valuable. So typically I'll do perhaps the last author's name or the first author's last name. So if I say Riaz and then Ali, those are the two authors, the first and the last author. The first author is typically the person that did the most work, and the last author is usually the person whose lab the work is being done in. So they're kind of the overseer of all the work. And then maybe I'll do something like perovskite halides, and then the year that it was 2024. So you can kind of see that, oops, sorry about that. So you can kind of see, this is moving on me, what's going on with what we're going to name that. I'm not going to save this right now, but that might be a good way to name something. I'd recommend kind of finding a file location where you can put your Chem 600 articles in and load them in, and have a spot where maybe you have a box for perovskite, and maybe you have a box for other solar panel components or whatever else, modification of perovskite or whatever those terms are. So this is a great way to find nice articles, and I'm going to, in another video, kind of talk about the different parts of journal articles, but this one you can see has all of the normal components of a journal article. That would be helpful perhaps for your research interests. When we go back, you'll also notice some of these. The second one, request this item through Lakeland's Interlibrary Loan. That means that there is not a full text version available for free. Typically, this is being published in a place where you would have to pay to get access to that article. So maybe you don't want to pay $20 or $40 for that, and that's totally reasonable to not want to do that. What you can do then is request this through Lakeland's Interlibrary Loan. So it'll bring you to this page. You'll fill out this information, and then it usually will be a few days to a week, perhaps, where you'll be able to get this article. So it's not instantaneous. It does take a little bit of time. The librarians at Lakeland have to find which location in their network has this available for free, and then they have to ask for a library loan from that librarian, and then they send it over. And it usually comes as a PDF, and you can save that and use that for the semester, but it takes a little more time. So those are some options. Those are some things you might want to do. There's also, if you want to change the publication date, maybe we only want things from the 2000s, so you can change some things to help you identify different things that are of interest. Sometimes the other thing you might want to do, you can also look for options. Sometimes you only want to look for reviewed papers instead of peer-reviewed. So sometimes there'll be different articles that are more for background and different articles that are more primary research. So I'll talk about those in a different video as well. So this is the primary one I would recommend looking at. Another place you might look, or you might be interested in looking for, would be going to the Google Scholar. You could certainly find items here. The problem is they're harder to identify for peer-reviewed. There are less kind of options for refining your search. So simply perovskite, you could certainly put in here as well. It'll bring some things up here, but there's harder to be able to identify how you want to sort them. American Chemical Society has some publications available too. If you click on the pubs.acs.org, you can search in here, perovskite, and it'll bring you up some articles. A lot of times these articles are behind paywalls, but you get access to a few of these, but I only have a limited number per year. So I can probably get you 1 or 2, but probably not going to be able to get you 10 of these articles. So if there's something that you really feel like would be really helpful for you and you really want to look at it, let me know. I'd be happy to use a few of those access codes for this. But again, a lot of these are behind paywalls, but they're also a lot of times very relevant. Finally, we can go to ResearchGate. This is researchgate.net. Again, this is, you might have to create a profile, and this is a group of scientists that have profiles on here. It's kind of like a Facebook for scientists and their journal articles. But you can do something similar. Perovskite, if I'm looking for that component of solar cells, I can bring up articles. What's kind of nice about this is a lot of times these people with little name video or name tags on here, they're usually around to ask for full text. So if you want to go to, maybe I really want this one, you want to request a full text version of this, one of these people might be able to give it to you. Sometimes they also upload it, so you can just download it directly from here as well. So there's another nice way to either download if you can't find it. It might be a little different than what you're finding here, or you might find it here in the interlibrary loan, request interlibrary loan, and then you can go to ResearchGate. It might be available for free there, or it might be free at Google Scholar. So I would almost I would recommend using kind of Google Scholar, ResearchGate, just to see if you can get around the having to go through interlibrary loan. Again, it's not that it's not going to work, it just takes a little longer to do it that way. And sometimes the author will just have a copy and they're happy to share it with you. The other one that is a little weird is the PubMed, and it might be weird to think, oh, why would there be chemistry on, the Library of Medicine? I don't know, but there is usually. So if you go on here, this is another one that kind of pulls a bunch of research articles out, and you can they have nice options for selecting different types of journals as well. So you can do a review paper, for example. And a review paper is different than it can be a peer-reviewed also, but it's not necessarily primary research. So primary research is, I am a researcher, I do the research, and then I send in my results. A review is looking at, and almost more what you are going to do this semester with your writing. It looks at all of the research in a certain area and identifying some of the themes and some of the things they're looking at. That is a different type of paper, but it can be really helpful to look at reviews in terms of what is available and what is out there for your area of interest. We're going to look at, I don't want to look at a review, I want to look at free full text. So if this is clicked, it's only going to give me free texts. And I can also do the same thing, like, I just want them in the 2000s. So it doesn't really change much for this one, but for example, if I click on here, you can see that even PubMed has information on perovskite solar cells. So I can get free access text here. You can download that PDF and look at what's in there. So some options for you for identifying, finding texts, different types of journal articles. I'll make another video where we'll start to explore what kind of things that you should expect in a journal article. And again, just kind of differentiating between a review article versus a primary research article. And so we'll kind of go from there, but I just wanted to give you some of these resources for your benefit so you can start to search and look into some things that you might find interesting. Now, we'll note if you do a search and you don't find anything, that might suggest that you might want to change your kind of tactic or find something else that maybe is more fruitful. So if I have, thousands of publication options here, right? I have 5 pages of these, so I have hundreds of articles I can look at. That's a good option. If I put something in here and I get 2 articles and they're both published in the 1900s, that might not be a great research project topic, right? So you want to have something that has enough information so there is some research done on it. If it's too narrow, if you don't have much to do, remember you're going to be wanting at least 10, maybe 15 different articles that you're going to want to have. So make sure that you have enough information to go on to kind of move forward with your research. Otherwise, it's going to be really difficult, and you don't want to spend too much time trying to find stuff about it. That's all I have, and hopefully that was helpful, and thanks for your attention.